my name is Becca and I am the owner of Fight Factory Wrestling. Fight Factory Wrestling started off in 2013. We came from tragic circumstances, but out of tragedy came positivity, and over the last decade or so and 150 shows we've been able to showcase some of professional wrestling's baby talent moving on to the bigger talent, and to see how Fight Factory has developed in that time to one of the leading platforms in professional wrestling in the UK has been a journey.
I'm going to take you back to the beginning. What was it like when you first met Hayden?
I'm not entirely sure any of that can be published. Complete whirlwind. Never did I think 17 years ago that I would be sat in the middle of a wrestling ring running a wrestling company with Hayden. It was very cliche. It was barmaid, doorman, and we just hit it off. Yeah, completely crazy.
What's changed about Hayden from the time that you first met him to when you started running Fight Factory Wrestling?
Do you know what? Not a lot. He is the same. How do I describe him? Unemotional, but strong, caring guy that I met 17 years ago and married. We have changed as people because life does throw curveballs at you. But yeah, he's just Hayden. He's really hard to describe.
And I need to obviously take you back to obviously a really big important step in the relationship and development of Fight Factory was the sad loss and illness of Hayden's mom.
Yeah.
I wondered if you could talk a little bit about her though, because I think as obviously from my point of view as fans, we know of her legacy in terms of the influence she's had in terms of setting up Fight Factory and the influence that's had every year with Bodyslams. But what was she like as a person, and what was it like getting to know her as part of that family relationship?
So Dee, as my mother-in-law, we had the typical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship. We did not always see eye to eye. God, we would disagree quite often, to be fair. But she was a wonderful woman, really. She ran nursery schools, and she had a lot of influence on our earlier relationship, trying to develop She helps us a lot because Thomas, my eldest, is autistic, and when it came to having him diagnosed, etc., she was the first one that kind of went, do you think that there could be an issue here? Like, she just saw different things and she pointed us in the right direction. So having her support for that was great. But as I say, Dee and I didn't always see eye to eye. We would have the odd argument, as it were. But it's probably just because we saw things differently. But towards the end, our relationship just took on a different role. And you know, I've often been open about the conversation that I had with her when she was in the hospital, which was, you know, don't worry, I'll look after your boys. You know, it's really hard, that, to be fair. And until you see somebody like on their deathbed, it's not a conversation really that you think of ever having. But she was a strong woman. Like, she put up such a fight. You know, there's a picture that we have of our wedding, and we didn't know at the time, but she already had cancer at that point when we got married, and she'd kept it quiet, she kept her worries quiet, and then a couple of months later she was like, I need to go to the hospital, and she actually rang me whilst I was at work, and she was like, would you come with me? And I never expected that. You know, that wasn't we weren't that close. So to do that was a hard thing, especially then having to ring Hayden and tell him the news. So we started off, I never liked wrestling. It wasn't my thing. But Hayden, when we first met, he damaged his back like quite severely, and there was a choice of him coming back to either do MMA and have one final fight, that's what he wanted to train for, or go back to wrestling, because actually it's a more controlled environment for him to be able to do what he wanted to do. And we ended up going to Grimsby quite often for him to train with a company called GWA. And then we got involved with a guy in Lincoln who was running shows, and this was through GWRDW. We came over and did a few shows with them. The guy who was running that side of things said, I'd like to run a training school. Would you come and do the coaching for us? But I need to find somewhere that we can do the training from. So Hayden knew Sean Burton, who runs Lincoln Fight Factory. It's a kickboxing club and boxing academy. And we asked if we could rent the space on a Sunday. And he was like, yeah, no problem. So Hayden would turn up every Sunday. He would train the guys, and the gentleman who we were running it for used to turn up, take the wages, and bugger off. And I was like, this doesn't sit right with me, Hayden, because you're doing all this work, and he's like turning up in his mucky boots and buggering off and getting all the glory for it. And I was like, man, I don't like this. I was like, has he got insurance and stuff? So I asked these questions because Hayden was putting a lot of hard work into it. So as time went on, we were kind of like, I don't like this. So I said, nah, we're going to do it. We're going to take over and we're going to run it properly, and we'll run it as a proper training school and have all the health and safety in place and insurance and all that palaver. And as you know, Hayden's mum became poorly, and as she was going through treatment, we wanted to raise some money for St Barnabas, and she had never seen him wrestle. So we thought we would book a venue whereby it could be big enough so that she could kind of sit at the back and not get any germs from people while she was having a chemo, and then she could see him wrestle. And we started planning it, and she died before we could complete that journey. So literally the day after she died, in fact the morning that she died, we were due to train some school kids at Yarbough Leisure Centre. And we turned up very, very tired, ran this training session, and then said, well, we just need to make it bigger now, don't we? Means more. So that's how Bodyslams To Cancer came around. And the rest is history. It's been since we started planning in 2013. But the first Bodyslams To Cancer show came in 2014, and we've done it ever since.
And it's an incredible legacy, obviously, you've created with Bodyslams every year. I know that the company's grown around that. But when you're looking ahead at this year, for example, what are your thoughts going into that and the impact it's had on not just your own lives, but the community and the fans? What is it, when you're now getting into that final stage where you just cut the months out, say, what's going through your head when you think of Bodyslams?
For me, it's making sure that the event just runs like as smoothly as possible, and that we can raise as much money as possible. But also I start to think about, like, I do a speech every year, and I've done that speech every single year, and standing in the middle of this ring, my speech has changed many times over the last few years because of life and things that happen. But it's the impact that Bodyslams has on the charities and the community around us that is always at the forefront, because we just want to do as best we can. And this year we're supporting Sophie's Journey again. And Sophie's Journey is just like, we always chose like a children's charity and an adult charity. And this year 100% of the profits is going to Sophie's Journey, and that's because they have grown as a charity, and now they are moving into adults as well. So Sophie's Journey provide end of life and palliative holidays for children, but now they're branching out and they're going to be providing it for adults as well. And Stacey, the runner of Circus Journey, rang me a few weeks ago, and she said, I need to get this right. I need to make sure we got the wording right for what like palliative care is and end of life care is and what we can have as a service. And now being in the position that I'm in as a palliative care nurse, I was able to guide her with that. And I just think what they do as a charity is immense, especially when it comes to the memories made at end of life.
How would you describe Kieran as a person, and also the way he's developed into who he is today? So
KD is Kieran, and normally we ramp it up by about 10, but you only have to ramp it up about 2 or 3. No, he's lovely. He is he's a really, really good brother-in-law to have. Like, to be fair, even though he's like a good few years younger than me, I quite often go to him for advice, if I'm honest, and vice versa. But seeing him develop over, the last 17 years is, I've seen him grow up, realistically, you know, because he went away to university, and just seeing how he has grown and become a husband and a dad, and that's just mental. But yeah, his personality and the arrogant side that you see in KD is Kieran on a night out, to be fair. You're like, oh God, like, come on. You need to rein it in a little bit. But yeah, he, you know, would do anything for anybody. And I think that's all of the Loeve boys, to be fair, that they get that from their dad. Like, you can spot a Loeve male a mile off. Sometimes in the stupid shit that they do, but in the caring manner that they do have. Hayden's like nodding his head going, what? I don't understand what you mean.
Well, it's a good chance to actually introduce all the family members. Obviously, you've got a lot that are involved in Fight Factory, from obviously running it, wrestling, writing it, ref work, camera work, everything.
Everything.
Please introduce every member of the family that's involved with Fight Factory Wrestling.
Okay, so there's obviously myself, and I got roped into it because, you know, I married Hayden, who is Dutch, who is wrestler, head coach, personal trainer, kind of like the driving force behind it all. Then you've got Kieran, KD, Dutch's brother, who kind of just fell into wrestling and decided he was going to give it a go. And because he's good at absolutely everything that he turns his hand to, just actually has carried on and been amazing at it. Then you've got Vaughan, who is the middle brother, and he literally comes to every single show that we have ever done, and he films it, he ring runs, he just, you name it, he does it. He's just kind of like the reliable thing in the background that is just born, and he's brilliant. And then you've got our children. So there is Kaya, who is our eldest, who wrestles. She is just graduated from John Moore University, and we are just amazingly proud of her for that one. Then there's Thomas, my eldest, so TJ, who wrestles. He's dipped his toes into refereeing as well, and he, up until a short time ago, was doing the coaching for the kids class, but now he, especially with his autism, is hyper-focusing on becoming a paramedic, so he's doing that. Then there's AJ, so Ian, who started out refereeing and then decided actually he wanted to give the wrestling a go, so now he's doing that, and that is so nerve-wracking. And then Madison, she is the most sensible one of the lot of us. So she's our youngest daughter, and she does the photography. And she's like, I ain't getting in that wrestling ring. That hurts too much, Mum. Not a chance. So she's definitely the most sensible of us all.
And what does it mean to you to know that the family have wanted to follow your footsteps and get involved the way they have, and they care about what you've built so much?
I think they're all completely crazy. Because wrestling is it's a journey. And the kids being involved especially is the one thing that really pushes me to keep it going, because I see the joy that they have when they enter this wrestling ring, and the way that my boys have developed, especially in their personalities, and come out of their shell and found something that is uniquely for them. But I also worry because the wrestling world is a hard world to be in. And there's so many trials and tribulations that come with it. It's like, but they see everything. They see, you know, the stress that we go through, and they see the passion that we have for it, and the blood, sweat and tears that are shed. So yeah, it means a lot, really.
And could you describe Bodyslams To Cancer for anyone who's watching this doesn't know anything about it?
So Bodyslams To Cancer is like our WrestleMania. So it is a hard-hitting spectacle of athletic performance with a storyline running all the way through. It's like EastEnders in Lycra. The guys go out there and they have a lot of fun. They put their bodies on the line, and they do it so that we can raise as much money as possible. And it's like the accumulation of everything that's been going on throughout the year. So this is where storylines kind of come to a close, but then also like start all over again as well. So yeah, it's fun and scary and stressful.
One of the questions I was going to ask you is what an average show day is like for you, and how that day runs in terms of when it starts and when you get home.
So my show day starts the night before, because like the final tickets will have gone off sale online, and I then have to plan the seating and making sure that there's a name on a seat for everybody, and packing the van to make sure that everything's in there, doing all the safety checks on the ring, just ensuring that like everything runs like clockwork. So I basically have to oversee everything, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I suppose, and I don't stop worrying until the event is over and the ring is packed down and it's back in the van and I've got a glass of gin in my hand, and then we're all right because I know that everybody's safe. But yeah, there's so much that goes into it, you know, the pre-show meeting, the storylines, any changes that like might need to happen because of like injury or people being sick or whichever. And then just making sure that throughout the show, listening to how the audience is reacting, because we may change things on the spot as well. Like there has been times when I've made calls to the referee, like for the ending of the match to change, and it's just listening to what is going on and how the crowd's responding. So yeah, it's a busy old time. I do on average about 24,000 steps on a show day. I don't stop.
Yeah, that's getting your average in at least, is it?
It is,
for a whole month. In terms of how it's grown from the first event, and now you run so many events all year long, and ring hires and everything else that comes with it. How has that journey been in terms of deciding to go from, right, we're going to make this almost like we're going to do this full time, we're going to create all these shows, we're going to create this platform. How has that journey gone over the years to create that platform, and you know, not just provide people that you train an opportunity to perform, but others, and go and work for other companies as well? What's that journey been like for you?
It's been a massive learning curve, especially as a female in this journey, because a lot of promoters out there don't, what's the word? It's not a respect thing, it's to start off with, they wouldn't talk to me about the ring hire or building the ring or anything like that. It was like they would always go to Hayden. Hayden would be like, no, you need to go speak to the wife. She's the one that controls it all. So from developing all those skills and knowing this wrestling ring inside out and the steel cage for hire, and like looking at insurance and health and safety and developing all that lot and making sure that we've got a good solid foundation, that's been a journey itself. And developing time management, because I don't have a lot of time to myself. I'm either working at my day job, or I am on a ring hire, or I'm here watching the guys wrestle, and also just looking at how we can develop as a company as a whole as well, because wrestling has changed over the last 10, 12 years, massively, and that it's a minefield to kind of wade through. So yeah, learning how to change with the times as well has been a journey.
We're going to be asking you in a minute to describe wrestling, but before I do that, we're asked, who are Becca and Hayden away from wrestling?
Well, he would say Becca's a Mardy bitch. He's nodding. Do you know what? I don't think we're much different away from wrestling, if I'm honest. Like, wrestling has formed a massive part of our marriage and our life. Like, wrestling it's us. Like, what you see with us is what you get. Like, I'm maybe quieter at home because I need to be like having some brain space. But we are who we are. There's no difference in what you see in the wrestling ring or at training to how we are at home, really. Just maybe a little quieter.
Great. So I mentioned I was going to ask you to describe wrestling. Can you describe British wrestling or professional wrestling the day you walked into it, and can you describe it how it is now?
Oh, without getting cancelled. Okay. I think when we walked into wrestling, it was a little bit hokey, and there wasn't as much professionalism in professional wrestling as what there is now. You still do get the odd company who really shouldn't be running. People may or may not disagree with me or agree with me. But now wrestling is developed in such a way, and it's on such a bigger stage. I mean, it's always been there worldwide, hasn't it, with the WWE and whatnot, but British wrestling in the last sort of like 10, 15 years has come on leaps and bounds with all those big companies at the top, you know, like Progress and North and even like PPW, like that's a whole different ball game. You know, theirs is very, very much social media based, and like social media has had a massive impact on wrestling as well. But yeah, now it is more professional. There are higher standards that people like attain to that they want to keep, and I think for the majority of wrestling, it's going in a really positive way. But unfortunately, as with any industry, there is still, you know, a real dark side to wrestling that needs to be shown and to disappear. And there are definitely people who need to stay on the other side of the barrier, as it were.
Could you talk a bit about who your dad was, your memories of him, and just what that period of time was like for you?
So my dad, I can't begin to describe the loss and actually the change in me since he went. And the time was horrific, and it still is. I mean, it's been almost 5 years now, which is just mind-blowing. But my dad was an amazing doctor, an amazing father. Like, my parents split up when I was 6, but he would come round every Christmas without fail to see me. Even if he'd been doing his shift at A&E in Hull, you know, he would come and he would always make sure that he got a clean shirt on, because A&E in Hull is like real trauma based. But he was just such a kind, caring, wonderful human, and everybody says that about their dad, don't they? Because they're their dad, and therefore they put them on a pedestal. But he was just a whole different breed, and no matter what I went through, the life choices I made, he would 99% of the time stand by me. And I say 99% of the time, because when he first met Hayden, oh my God, he was like, tattoo, bald head, doorman, you could do so much better. And I was like, well, Dad, here we are. Oh, and by the way, I'm having a baby. And that went down like a lead balloon. But towards the end, him and Hayden became quite close. And I remember sitting in my downstairs toilet, of all places, because that's the only place that you can get some privacy in my house. I'd had a phone call with my dad, and this was after he'd had his cancer diagnosis, and I'd started my nurse's training, as you do, all comes at once, and I asked him if he was frightened of dying, and he said to me, no, I'm not frightened of dying, I'm frightened of being in pain, and I'm frightened of what I am leaving behind, but what gives me some solace is that I know that you will be okay. And I know you'll be okay because the man you've married actually is your rock, and he'll look after you. And I never forget that conversation. And it's always really hard to talk about because you think that you get over it, but you don't. And the first Bodyslams To Cancer, having to stand in the ring and talk about the shit that cancer causes and why we still strive and we push forward, was probably the hardest Bodyslams To Cancer speech I've ever done. And my dad did so much for the NHS and for everybody, and unfortunately the NHS failed my dad, and that was really hard to accept because he died during COVID, and his end of life pathway was never initiated, and if it had have been, then we could have seen him and he wouldn't have died on his own. And that is something that I have tried to now take forward with me, and the job that I do now as a palliative care nurse, I always try and make it that none of my patients go through what he went through, and that is like the driving force. And I use his stethoscope on a day-to-day basis. He gave me it when I started my training, and I just think about how many hearts and lungs and everything that has listened to, and the legacy that is behind that, and it keeps me going. But yeah, my dad was an amazing man. I was very, very lucky to be his daughter.
I appreciate you sharing all that, and I know it's difficult to talk about, but that story, the phone call you had, is an incredible memory. But do you have a favourite memory of anything you want to, like he made you laugh or something like that? Anything you want?
Oh, he would always make me laugh.
You want to include?
He just he's a bit like me. Like, he's got such a dry sense of humour. Like, you have to, like, especially in the work that we do. And he would, especially during COVID, like, he would get on the FaceTime, and he would try and go through like science lessons with the kids and try and be serious, and then by the end of it, it just was ended up being a free-for-all. But no, there's just not one particular like memory that I could really pinpoint, other than in the week that he was in hospital, towards the end of his life, I'd sent him a message the day before he passed, and I was like, oh, I'm out on doing my student community nursing, I said, and I might just make a good nurse yet, Dad. And the last text message he sent me was, methinks you will, in his Yorkshire accent. And I actually have that tattooed to me, and it's any time I doubt myself or doubt what is going on in the world around me, I can look at that and go, yeah, it's all right. But there's a positive part of this journey as well, though. So, like, in the background, Hayden's dad, Willem, when I started my nursing as well, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And you're like, Jesus, like, come on, are you going to chuck anything else at us? So we went through the journey with that, with him, and had all of his treatment and whatnot. And then we ended up going to hospital because he needed like a well man thing. And the scan that he had, the professional who was looking at it noticed just something that was a little bit odd high up on his scan that wasn't even in the area that they were scanning. And they said, we just need to look at that. So I sent him in for another MRI, and they discovered he had lung cancer. So we were like, shit, okay. So in my third year at uni, we were going through like coming out of COVID and also going through the treatment journey with Willem of getting him like half his lung removed, and now 4 years after qualifying, he is still here. He's had a hip replacement, he's got half a lung gone, and touch wood, he is 4.5 years cancer free. Yeah. So yeah, so that's a positive. But this is like why it's so important for us to push this journey forward and to discuss cancer and bring it to the forefront of everybody's minds. Because if there's something not quite right, then people can pick up on that and hopefully get something done about it before it's too late. So yeah.
When a trainee arrives,
yeah,
what do they walk into when they walk through that door?
Hopefully, from their eyes, they will see a really welcoming, family-based environment. Usually very chaotic, because the craziness that happens in this room is unreal. But hopefully, I'd like to think that they see family and balance and a lot of respect and openness. Yeah, I'd like to think that that's what they see. I hope that's what they see.
And what about when fans come to a show?
I like to think that they are entertained and that they come back because of that. And I always hope that they leave their preconceptions, if that's the word, at the door. Because wrestling, it's like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And I'd like to think that we put on a product that is good enough to get them to really enjoy indie wrestling and to show that you don't just have to like go to WWE to get a really good quality product. So yeah, 2 hours of their life that they can just leave all their troubles behind and be entertained.
How would you describe Fight Factory Wrestling as it is now?
To some, a place of comfort, and to others, a place of stress, that being me. But I think that since it's like fruition, it has developed into a really, really top-notch, high-class product that has a lot of passion behind it and a lot of values and morals. And we like to develop, and there is still future in Fight Factory. We change with the times, but we keep our main focus and goals.